Look at this big healthy boy. I did that. My body did that. Hey, my name is Nina, aka your girl Neens. This is Dom Blue. He is 8 months old, and today I'm going to talk about my postpartum body. Where are you going? Yeah? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mama. Have fun making a video.
I put off doing this video for so long because I feel like my body has just been up and down, and it's gone through so many stages of like what it is that I keep waiting for it to kind of get to a place of like normalcy or calm, or like where it's gonna go back to what it was before. But I realized that's never gonna happen. So 8 months postpartum is when we are finally doing this. And I feel like when people talk about their postpartum body, or when people even ask me questions about it, I feel like the main thing that comes up is weight. So like how much weight I gained, how quickly I lost weight, and what I'm doing to lose weight. So I will address that, but also I will say that when we talk about like your body postpartum, there's so much that has nothing to do with weight. A lot of it has to do with like strength, or just like how I'm able to like compose myself sitting here, like feeling pain in my shoulders. Like that to me is like so much more profound than like how much weight I gained or I lost. So before I got pregnant, I was around 120 pounds. Sometimes I would go up to about 130. That was kind of my high end. And then when I got pregnant, I got all the way up to 160. So I gained 40 pounds, and I was quite large. My stomach was ginormous. People thought that I had twins. And a lot of it is, you know, water weight. A lot of it is because I did eat a lot. And then because the pandemic hit, for the good portion of my third trimester, I wasn't allowed to go outside. I couldn't go swimming or exercise the way that I had planned to. But because I had an emergency C-section, I had an IV, so I had a lot of fluids in me, and I got so bloated because I had so much water. So I had like a lot of water weight. Once I gave birth, all that fluid kind of just became trapped inside my body. And so like they say that your feet will swell before you give birth, like when you're pregnant, and mine kind of did, but it didn't swell anything close to what it was like after I gave birth, like because all this water essentially was trapped in my body and had nowhere to go. And so I full on bloated. And they say that like you'll lose all of that water weight, which eventually I did, and I lost a lot of it through night sweats, which I would go to sleep and wake up drenched, like just full on, just like I just took a dip in the pool. Like I went outside and it was pouring rain. Like I was just drenched. That happened for maybe like a week or two, because that was my body's way of getting rid of all the excess water. A lot of liquid got trapped around my scar, and I knew very, very, very little about C-sections before I gave birth, and that was my bad. That was fully on me to like look up more about this potential possibility that might happen. And so I was told over and over and over again that like, you're young, you're healthy, and I never in a million years would have guessed that I would have had to have a C-section. But anyways, this is really gross. I went to the bathroom one day. It's so hard. Like that whole area, above it, below it, to the side of it, the whole area was just firm, hard, hot. And I was like, is this normal? Like, is this just what it's gonna be like now? And then I sat down to pee, and then I saw a hole in my incision, and just pus shot straight out of it. Like it was so gross, but also like so cool at the same time. Like, you know, like pimple popping, it's so cool, but so gross. So I just squished all of it out. I'm so sorry if this is so disgusting. I actually didn't anticipate talking about this, but it's coming up as I'm talking about it, and it was my postpartum body. So I kind of had this excess fluid coming out of my incision in this one little spot for about like 3 to 4 days. It still is hard to this day. Like the edges of it are not that hard of my incision, but the center of it is definitely hard for me to squeeze. And the idea is that you want to be able to pick up your scar. That's what people say. It took about like 10 to 12 weeks before it felt fully healed. And even past that, like fully healed makes you think that, you know, you can like stretch, you can run, you can like, and everything's gonna be fine. And it isn't. It just means that, you know, like you probably won't rip it again. I still do experience pain from it. Like literally yesterday I was laying down in bed and I just felt this like shooting, stabbing pain like go through my incision. Don't know what that's about. There's so much hope and optimism on the internet about like, yeah, just wait like 6 to 8 weeks and you'll be great. And like, that's just not true. Your body is designed to heal itself, but there's so much work that goes into it that I didn't know and that nobody told me. I just figured that, you know, I lost a lot of muscle mass and I lost a lot of strength. I just imagined I would kind of bounce back to where I was after I gave birth, but you don't ever just regain that strength. Like, it takes a lot of hard work and effort to get to a place where stretching the same amount that you did before doesn't hurt and feel like everything's tearing. And again, I don't know if this is true for everyone or if it's just me because I was particularly unfit and I've always been a particularly unfit person. What I also want to talk about was my boobs. So I'm very, very flat. Like, I'm pretty sure that I'm like a 34 double A, like very small. And when I was breastfeeding, I mean, to me, they felt like C's. Honestly, they were probably just a really, really full A, like honestly a B. I would say a B. They were like a B cup, which is really big for me. And then it made me realize that I actually don't like having bigger boobs because I was like, oh my God, well, like, you know, I'm in so much pain because I just gave birth, but I have these huge boobs. So like, let me wear all the things I wanted to wear because like, I don't know, I felt that I couldn't because I didn't have really big boobs, and then I realized that's just not me, and like that's not how I like to dress. And so I was just waiting for my boobs to go back to normal size, and now they are. So the one like plus side, I know that postpartum bodies, like it's very depressing, honestly, when you listen to people talk about it, because it's just all these things change in my body and it's all worse and it sucks, but I have this beautiful baby. The one upside for me is that because my boobs were so small to begin with, and they did grow when I breastfed, but now they've shrunk back and they're like saggier, like they definitely aren't as perky. And I don't know what would happen if I have multiple children after this, and then like if my boobs continue to like grow back in and out, like I don't know how it's gonna handle that. But for now, they pretty much come back. They're not that saggy. The only thing for me is that I used to never have to wear a bra, and now when I work out or when I run, I have to wear one, which is pretty normal for people anyway, so that's like not really something I feel I can complain about. So circling back to the C-section scar that I had, I can't speak to, I guess, like what your stomach or your pooch would look like if you gave birth naturally, because I don't know that experience. But for me, having a C-section, I'll show you guys. I really debated whether or not I wanted to share this because it felt really private to me, and a lot of times when I look at it, it doesn't feel like me, it doesn't feel like my body. And so I've had a really hard time, I guess, coming to terms with the fact that this is a new part of my body that's permanent and it's here to stay. So I have what they call a C-section shelf, or like a pooch. Essentially what that means is I have my scar, and then above it, I have like an overhang. So it kind of looks like my body indents a bit. And that's just because when you create a scar, you're tightening that skin around it, and you have all of that scar tissue that's developing around it that's really tight. So I try my best to massage it. And it's also like one of those things where if I suck in and I like stand really straight and tall, it more or less kind of goes away. But it's kind of when I just relax that it falls out. I also am just ready to accept that this is a part of my body, and this is just part of the process of bringing Blue into this world. You can see that my skin is also really stretchy. You touch my stomach now and it's just soft, and it just goes in for what feels like it forever. And when I first gave birth, I have photos of my 1 month postpartum body. 1 month, I was kind of like, okay, this is where we're at. This is kind of our starting point. And my stretch marks at that point were very purple. Like they were very visible. You could see them very clearly. And I had that line that was going down my stomach, and I still have it slightly. It's still kind of there, but for the most part, it kind of has faded away, which the internet says will happen. And a lot of my stretch marks have lightened in color now. And I've had stretch marks before. That's why I kind of figured that I would get them now. And honestly, the stretch marks don't really bother me. I think it's because I've had them before, so I've kind of come to terms with that being a part of my body. But I will say that the hardest thing for me to come to terms with is like my stomach and like the overhang and the pooch. That's something that when I put on clothes, like when I'm trying to fit into like my pants from before, like some of my favorite outfits don't hang on me the same way, they don't look the same, and that's just been a really hard thing for me to deal with. And I feel so vain as I say it, and I feel like there's so many other problems. You shouldn't care this much, and I have such a beautiful baby that resulted from my body going through what it did, that I feel bad sometimes like talking about this. And I also shouldn't feel I shouldn't be made to feel bad. So I don't know, I struggle with it. As you can tell, like I struggle with it, and I know that, you know, my body's beautiful. It went through this incredible thing and it's functional, it recovered, and there are definitely some pains. Like I am sore everywhere. I have absolutely like no strength. Like trying to rebuild that has been really difficult. Like there are just so many things that are different, and so I really struggle with like accepting it, loving it, treasuring it for what it's given me, but then also trying to be kind to myself and being like, you know, you don't need to love everything about yourself right now, this instant, you know, like your relationship with your body is constantly changing, and it's a learning, growing process. And some days I love it more, some days I love it less. And I will say that because I breastfed for 8 months, essentially, like I'm pretty much stopped. And so people say that when you breastfeed, you do burn a lot of calories, so you lose a lot of weight. And that is how I lost pretty much all my weight, because other than breastfeeding, I haven't started exercising until like this week. I probably did like 1 or 2 yoga Pilates classes in the last 8 months, but I don't contribute that to like my weight loss. That was me just mostly trying to regain my strength. And I haven't weighed myself recently, so I don't know how much I weigh. I got my period, which has been an interesting experience. I say interesting, it's not that interesting. I got my period and I haven't had it in like over a year. I will say that after you give birth, you do bleed vaginally. It's not your period, but you do bleed. So I feel like I've rambled so much in this video, but there's like 3 more things I want to say. I totally forgot, but I got laser hair removal before I got pregnant, and I know a lot of people say that you shouldn't do that before you get pregnant because then your hair will come back, and it's true. So I had my underarms laser hair removed. I honestly haven't touched my underarms in a really long time, so not all of the hair came back, but definitely some of it did. And I also got a Brazilian laser hair removal, and definitely some of that came back as well. I would say that when I did both of them, like my armpits were 99% gone, and then now they probably came back like, I want to say 25-40%. And then for my Brazilian, it was probably like 75% gone when I did the laser hair removal, and then now it came back honestly probably close to like 75%. So those are things to consider if you want to get laser hair removal and then also have kids in the future, or like get pregnant in the future. That's something to consider, that your hair might come back. And then I feel like we can't talk about postpartum body without talking about sex. I feel like this video could be a whole video in and of itself, so let me know if you guys want me to make a whole video about this. Maybe I can make it with Dayon if he feels comfortable with it. But sex has been really, really, really hard for me postpartum. I was very sexually active before, like, you know, doing all the tricks. I could literally do like whatever I wanted to, and now everything hurts. Like I've never experienced this before, and I think that it does have a really big effect on my mental and on our relationship, and it's something that we've talked about so much and we've communicated so much about it. Being able to have sex whenever we wanted to, in any way that we wanted to before, was just such a big part of our relationship and such a big part of my sexual identity and like how I expressed myself sexually. And now it hurts. Like we can't have penetrative sex without me like having to take deep breaths and like try and sit through it, and then usually I can't, and so then we have to just figure out something else to do. That combined with the fact that my sex drive has been non-existent throughout my pregnancy and throughout my postpartum, and now I'm hoping that because I have my period back, that my sex drive will start to come back as well. But my desire for sex was literally just shot. That's really hard. Like I think for anybody that would probably consider themselves to be quite a sexual person, like it's kind of like, where did that part of your identity go? And it's like trying to rediscover that part of yourself. So it was hard. And it still is. We haven't really found any solution for it. I did go to physiotherapy, and we did a couple of like tests with the physiotherapist, and there's definitely a lot of sensitivity. A lot of it has to do with my scar. A lot of it just has to do like mentally and physically. My body is just not ready to have sex. Essentially, my body is unsure whether or not something coming into my vagina is a baby that it wants to push out or like keep in. Like it just is unsure as to what it is, because it's traumatized by like childbirth essentially. I shouldn't say traumatized, but it's like that was a really big moment for it, and so now it's just unsure moving forward. So a lot of it is like retraining, but also being really patient with my body. And then the last thing I want to talk about is my hair. My hair grew a lot when I was pregnant. Like this is the longest my hair has been in like 6-8 years, like since I've been in high school, mostly because I cut it because it gets really damaged, but it grew so much when I was pregnant and it was so healthy, it was so full. At around 4 months postpartum, 4 or 5 months postpartum is when I would start to like comb through my hair and just wads of it was coming out. Like so much of it came out, and a lot of it still comes out now, not as much as like when it initially started. And that's just part of postpartum. I have a bunch of little baby hairs in the front, and it's pretty crazy like to just see them all here, because I'm like, I mean, a lot of my hair fell out, but at least a lot of it is growing back in. That has been my postpartum journey with my body. I feel like there's so much more that I could say about it, but at the end of the day, like I have such a beautiful, healthy baby, and I'm really proud at the end of, like, I feel like this whole video is just me talking about things I didn't like about my body, but I really want to say that like there's so much that I appreciate about it, and it's still functional and it's still beautiful, and this isn't the end of the road for it. I think that's the idea. The idea is never to get back to where you were before, because there's never really an end place. I feel like with your body, it's an ongoing relationship and it's always changing, and that's just the beauty of it. So I hope that you guys found this video insightful. Make sure that you follow me at Your Girl Neens, subscribe, like the video, comment below if you have any other questions, want me to make a video about anything else that I talked about, or anything postpartum, or literally anything at all. I want to make more videos, but I'm always like, I have no idea what to make. So leave them below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Hi, baby. Hi, I missed you.
Oh, hello, friends.
Oh, hello. Blue, did you know that you lived inside my body for 10 months? I mean, obviously not at this size because you're ginormous now. It's so crazy. It's just like mind-blowing, like what the human body can do. Yeah.